always talk about, and we hear it all the time, but does it really land? Does it really resonate? Do we really take it to heart? We give the toddler grace when they're having a temper tantrum. We hold them anyway. We give the preschooler grace when they asked for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you gave them a peanut butter jelly sandwich and they didn't eat it anyway. Like we have grace for all these phases with our children, but we don't seem to have grace for ourselves.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it.
Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Kathryn Garland. Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And we were just reminiscing about the amazingness of having children and, and what that means.
You keep us on our toes. Like there's never a dull moment. I'll just say that.
That is absolutely true. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm erasing that. I am a stay-at-home mom of 4. That is my most proud label. We have tons of stuff going on here. We have a small homestead. We have the 4 kids we homeschool, and they are my day in, day out vocation, we'll call it. And yeah, I've got a podcast that I have going on, but mostly I'm just in the throes of home and motherhood.
And there is, yeah, you said there's nothing just about homeschooling for children.
Yeah, right.
Or motherhood, but or being a stay-at-home mom, but adding the homeschooling on top of it. Little side note: my son, we picked up his school schedule for this school year, and he wasn't enrolled in band, and he said, "If I'm not in band, then you're homeschooling me because there's no point in going to school anymore."
Yeah. I mean, we even have moments like that here, and they don't go anywhere.
Well,
so
yeah. It's a universal school children thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that, yeah, you have to do. It's a means to an end. It's necessary. And you don't always want to.
Yeah. So we had a coaching session.
We did.
Before we connected for this podcast recording. So tell our listeners just a little bit about what your experience was with that, and how you were feeling before, how you felt afterwards, and anything else that you would like to share.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure what to expect going into it, I'll be honest, because I didn't really have any expectations. I didn't really have any thoughts going into it. So we kind of just sat down, and I think if I remember correctly, I was having a bit of a day that day, and I kind of just laid it all out there. And I'll be honest, you just took it. You took it all, and you heard me. And we ended up doing some inner child stuff, and it felt really good because I was just I feel like right now where I'm at with motherhood, we're slowly getting into puberty. I've got some younger ones as well, but I've got some that are slowly getting into puberty. And puberty to me feels like it's a mirror. It's like a reflection of everything that I can see, all the things in my daughter, especially, that's getting there. I have a son and a daughter who are kind of getting there right now. And I find that my son, I find that his, the the ups and downs of puberty, I find a little bit more like shocking because he was always so even. But my daughter, I find that it's really triggering because it's reminding me the good, the bad, and the ugly of when I went through it. And I mean, we kind of talked a lot about that. And there was some support for, whatever, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old me. I don't really know exactly what age was coming up for me, but he just gave me some support and some tools for that as I'm watching this reflection coming back at me in all the unpleasant ways that happens. And yeah, it's still a journey. It's still a roller coaster. It's still a thrilling ride, but it feels a lot different when you think of it in that way. Like, I think I felt like it was a mirror, but I couldn't put that label on it until I talked about it out loud with you. So, you really helped me see that. And then, I mean, in the weeks since we've had that conversation, there are moments where I've been struggling, and I remember that, and it does feel easier.
It is interesting. And thank you for sharing all of that. It is interesting how when we become moms, and sometimes wives, depending on what kind of files that we have, is that when we embrace this role of wife and or mom, then all the files open up of what it means to be a wife and what it means to be a mom, and our inner child hasn't always healed from a lot of the stuff that we felt as children. And so there's a fabulous book called Parenting from the Inside Out, and it really talks about all of that process, where it really helps you heal as mom, so that you're parenting from a place of neutrality and not a place from being triggered. And I've been doing this for probably 8 years now, and I still get triggered once in a while with things that I didn't even know were there. When my son was at the water park with his friend and his friend's sister, I have an only child, but the three of them together, the 2 boys and a girl, and one of the boys teasing the girl to the point where she was crying, was really triggering for me because I was the little girl. And I was like, I didn't even know that file was there until it happened. Yeah. So that's what's beautiful about having a coach or being coached on this kind of thing, because you become aware of that inner child whose needs weren't met. And then you get the tools on how to help meet her needs.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, there's so often these things that we don't even realize are things. Like, if you had said to me, was puberty great for you? I would have said no, but I wouldn't have known what that meant. I would have been like, no, but it's not for anyone, I'm sure. Right? Like, I've only been through it for me. And I feel like most people come out of that being like, that wasn't fun. So I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have realized that I was being triggered in that way. I probably would have just summed it up to, well, it's not fun for anyone. She's having a hard go. And I mean, they still have a hard go. Like me having a different perspective, or me parenting from neutrality, as you said, like it's not a magic fix. It's not a magic wand. It's still, you're still going to get triggered, and it's still going to be hard. And it just gives you a bit of a lens where you can sit back and go, okay, I need to breathe. I'm going to take a minute here. Or you realize that they're not doing this to me like this, because so often we take things personally. At least I don't know. I shouldn't say we. I find I take things personally that aren't. That, like, she's not doing this to me. He's not doing this to me. They're doing this because this is their experience. And if I'm taking it personally, I'm bringing something to the table that I need to leave behind.
Yeah. Because they don't know, like, they haven't experienced the world, and we've experienced it to the degree that we've experienced it. And, I think our job is to be this guide for them on this human journey. But when we're still feeling the pain from our journey, then we're no longer the guide, and we're like reliving it along with them, and that's not as supportive as being the guide.
How sometimes things are said and you're just like, oh, that's what I was supposed to hear today. You just said, that's what I was supposed to hear today. I was talking to someone just the other day, and it was another homeschool mom. Her children are like more the age of my younger than my older, and we were talking about curriculum for the year, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that this year. And she was like, what do you mean you're not doing that this year? And I said, well, I'm just, we're switching the focus, because I found that when we do curriculum, it just adds this layer of stress to everyone. At the end of the year, when we're looking at benchmarks, they seem to hit them whether we do curriculum rigidly or whether we fly by the seat of our pants. And I was like, so I'm just not going to add that stress this year. And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. She dropped a name of someone. I cannot remember to give this person credit, but this person, she said, I think she's like an Instagram. She follows her on Instagram, and she was saying how we need to stop thinking of ourselves as teachers when we homeschool. We're just guides. We're just along for the ride. We're learning with them. We're not here to like, disseminate information. We're here to go on a journey with them. And she was like, that's what you're saying you're going to do this year. You're just going to say to heck with the curriculums because it's not serving the family. And I mean, they do have some support here and there. Like they go to a forest school, and one of them has a math tutor, and it's not like we do nothing. I know some people truly unschool, and I just can't wrap my brain around that. Bless those who can. But it's just like you're saying, we're just guides. We're partners in this journey.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were saying, getting, kind of realizing and that, or being triggered or making it about you, right? I was having a phone conversation with my son the other day, and I was telling him about how I saw one of his classmates, like we were picking up the class schedule, and it was at 7:30 in the morning. I was there 10 minutes earlier so that I could be like the first person through the door so I could get in and get out and on with life. And there was one other person, I was like, you have 5 friends. What are the odds that I would see one of these friends, or one of they don't really get along anymore. So I was calling him and telling him that I saw this friend of his, and he was super not, it just seems like he didn't care what I was talking about. He didn't really want to talk to me. I was making it about that he didn't want to talk to me. And then we ended up getting disconnected. So I thought he hung up on me, and I'm just like, oh, what is happening? And he said, and I said, well, I really just, my feelings are hurt because it really just didn't seem like you wanted to talk to me at all. And he said, well, you were talking about somebody that I don't like anymore. So yeah, I didn't want to talk about that. And I was like, oh yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of talking about things, is there something that you would kick yourself for not talking about today on this podcast?
Oh, that is a really good question. And one of the, I feel like there's several things, but I think that the biggest thing for me right now in this moment is just how we have to have so much grace for ourselves. We always talk about, and we hear it all the time, but does it really land? Does it really resonate? Do we really take it to heart? We give the toddler grace when they're having a temper tantrum. We hold them anyway. We give the preschooler grace when they asked for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you gave them a peanut butter jelly sandwich and they didn't eat it anyway. Like we have grace for all these phases with our children, but we don't seem to have grace for ourselves when we're, and even in that moment when you went, oh, right, he didn't want to talk about that friend, you could have been beating yourself up and had all the guilt and like, oh, why would I talk about that friend? It's true. I should have known better. Or you could have shitted yourself all day long over the smallest little thing. And I just wish that there was more of a collective sense of grace for mothers, for parents, because we have, like, if you really step back and think about it, it's like an impossible task to raise the next generation as happy and whole and kind and, I don't know, educated. And like, if you think of the list of what you're trying to accomplish, it's this impossible task. And we give ourselves the least grace of anything out there, I feel, And so I just wish we could place value on the things that really matter and worry less about the things that don't, and have all the grace in the world when we make mistakes, because let's be honest, we're going to daily, sometimes hourly.
Absolutely. And I mean, you make a really good point that, we're trying to raise the next generation with all of these qualities, whatever the qualities are that are important to you, whatever those may be. And most of the time, those qualities were not taught to you, and that's why it's important.
Yes.
And I heard a quote the other day that the offense that you suffered as a child is the thing that it becomes this like law that you are not going to do that to your children. So that kind of goes back to the whole trigger thing. But when I heard that, I found that so fascinating. And we're essentially flying blind because we are imperfect humans who were raised by imperfect humans, and we're raising imperfect humans.
And I just want to throw a layer on there of we are the first generation of parents parenting with this level of technology. I feel like there are so many things. Insert anything here. How extracurriculars were handled, how dinner was handled, how fights with siblings were handled. Insert any topic here. And I have a reference point where I like that my mom did this, and I hate that my dad did this. I'm gonna, and I can find somewhere in between, except with technology. We have no reference point for that. And good, bad, or indifferent. You're going to get the people who have absolutely no boundaries. You're going to get the people who have the most rigid boundaries, and you're going to get everybody in between. And we have no idea what we're doing with regard to technology because we didn't live it. And I mean, we're trying.
Yeah. And I mean, it really, that's such a good point. And, there's different studies that are being done on the earbuds that everybody's wearing. And, how good, bad, or what in between that those earbuds are for you. And I like the little earbuds. I don't like having something around my neck, but my husband is like, yeah, I'm not sticking something in my earbud because then it's in my ear because then it's constantly giving these waves that are going to give us cancer. And I'm like, I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Right? Time will tell.
Time will tell. And but there is that everything in between. And there are, and I think that there are people on either end of the spectrum that are really, really loud about you need to not let your kids have technology at all. And I have no boundaries, and my kid's fine. Right. So and then everything in between. And so we don't really know what to do because all we can do is look to the quote unquote experts. And one of my friends asked a really good question. What makes them an expert?
And they're not, because they're not in your home. They're not in your heart. They're not parenting your child with the unique set of needs in your street from your school, they're not. And I think that's a symptom of what I feel like is just a disconnect. You got to trust your gut. We are a very low technology household, very low. And yet yesterday my kids watched 2 movies because my eldest was babysitting and asked, and I thought fair enough. It was just, he wanted to, it was a hot day. And then later in the day, I just needed a break and they wouldn't leave me alone. And I don't think ever in their entire lives have they ever watched 2 movies in a day, ever. I mean, there are weeks and weeks and months sometimes that go by where they'll watch absolutely nothing. And, this is one of those moments where on paper, I'm very far this way. And then in reality, today's the day where we have to do what works for our family. And it doesn't matter what the experts say or what my friend over there says or what my mom says. This is what my family needs today. And my intuition and my collective need of the 6 of us has to kick in, and that's all that matters.
And back to your original point, how much grace did you give yourself for making that decision?
I didn't feel that at all. I think awesome. I shouldn't say at all. I think I felt bad for a hot minute when my youngest said, "But mommy, we already watched TV today." And I went, "Oh, should I really?" And I went, "No, we're doing that. Yep, I know, baby, you can again. If you don't want to, you don't have to, is what I said to her. I was like, I know, Mama said it's fine. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And she goes, well, I do want to. I said, all right, then it's available.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That when she said that, I went, oh, no, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. I everything that you said is so important that, like, you know, you have sometimes the ideals of what we're going to do as parents is different than reality. And I just recently I started saying, like, reality comes and kicks you in the teeth, because the best laid plans are, you know, it's the perfect scenario. The plans that we have are this idealized situation, and then reality comes along, because I personally believe that there's a higher perspective that we don't know about that comes in and teaches us the lessons that we're here to learn. And the idealized plan is not how we're going to learn those things.
It's like we went on a road trip. It was like, we don't live near an airport, and the airport we chose to fly out of is, I don't know, 7-8 hours from driving from where we are. And there's this one longer ferry. I think they say it's the longest free ferry in Canada or something. It's like a 40-minute trip, and we've never been on it just because where it is, we don't go that way often. We were going to take that ferry. So we went the long way around to get to this ferry, and we show up and there's this massive backlog of cars. So we have to make a game day decision. We turn around and we go the other way. So we've added time here. Then we get where we're going to the city, outside the city, and there's this crazy traffic. So it's like our 7.5 hour driving time turned into like 10 hours driving time, just like that. And my eldest said, it's because God was stopping us from getting in a car accident somewhere. And I went, yep, he sure was. I don't know why we couldn't do what we wanted to do. All I know is we had a great plan and we left on time, and it didn't work out at all. And it's the same with anything. Like that's just like you were just saying, you know, we make plans and then we watch 2 movies anyway.
Yep. Yeah. No, I love that. That happens to me all the time. Like, I made the joke the other day, my car, I was all ready to go. I was in the car at like 6 o'clock on the dot. And my car wouldn't start. And so I made the joke to my friend. I was like, I guess God didn't want me to go to the gym anymore. You know? And then that same day when I was picking up the class schedule, I think that was the day that I was like, I was in the car at 7 o'clock and I was ready to go. And the school is 10 minutes away. And like, I was going to get there and I was going to get the thing and I was going to leave. Like I had the best plan. Car wouldn't start again. Obviously I need a new battery, but like at the very least, the first time I felt like it was this divine intervention for something. And a friend of mine has retrained my brain. And that was the moment that I realized that she had retrained my brain, where it was this unconscious thought process at this point. She has these 4 questions. I'm not going to remember what they are, but one of them is, what does this make possible? What is the blessing? What is the opportunity? And then there's one other one that I don't remember, but those 4 questions. Now, when something happens that's outside of my plan, I'm asking those. I'm not even asking the questions. I'm just giving the answers to the questions, because now my brain just knows this is where I'm going to get to eventually. So we're just going to jump there first.
I love that. Because everything is an opportunity. There's always a silver lining. Like, of course. Yeah.
My son sneezed. I don't know if you could hear it, but I was looking for the mute button so that I could say bless you. And then right as I hit mute, he goes, no, bless you.
It's okay. I'll let you in on a little secret. My cursor hovers over the mute button the whole time because I've had to hit many times already. I just click.
This is like classic mom life. That's why I love interviewing moms, regardless of what you're doing in the world. Like, interviewing moms is the best, because every mom that's listening is like, oh yeah, I've been there. And having those like unplanned, unscripted moments, especially if you're listening and you are building a business and and then it happens to you, you can be like, I'm not alone. And it just takes a little bit of the pressure off.
Yes. Yeah. And so often it happens and it's an enhancement to whatever's going on, because there's always a silver lining.
I'm just saying, like, I'm in a much better mood than when I started. I wasn't in a bad mood when we started, but I was like, this is hysterical and it's making me laugh.
Oh, good.
So is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms?
Piece of advice: go slow. I think it's one of the most cliched cliches, and I love it so much. And I remind myself every day that the days are long and the years are short, because how many times do we feel like we're racing to bedtime, or we're racing to insert here because something is feeling too chaotic or too overwhelming or too whatever, and then you blink and they're 10. Right? Like that, it's just the days are long and the years are short, and we have to slow down. You know, slow down. And if they are, this morning I was pressure canning beans, and I was at I mean, I don't know if anyone listening pressure cans, but you know, it's
I've never heard of it. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just some things that you can't water bath. You can't just like put in a big bath of water. You have to, it's like a giant pressure cooker, but you're putting cans in it. And so there are certain foods that are only considered shelf stable if you do it under pressure. So I was pressure canning beans this morning, and, you know, it has to stay at a certain amount of PSI for a certain amount of time in order to be, and all the things. So I usually end up just standing there watching. Well, I just got a walking pad. This is a self-care thing I did. I got a walking pad to put in front of things when I'm canning them, so I can just walk while I'm doing it. It makes me feel better. But just a little sliding that in there. But I'm walking, and I'm actually just getting it ready to do that. And I put it on, and it's not at the point where it's getting pressure yet. And my son says, "Will you play Playmobil with me?" And I was this close to saying no, because pressure canning, I have to be right there. And I was like, it's not even at pressure yet. I can go. So I said, I was like, dude, I only have about 10 minutes till it gets to pressure, and then I've got to walk away, but I can give you 10 minutes. And like, he didn't need more than 10 minutes. I think he was done with me before the thing got to pressure anyway, because he just needed my attention. And we're so quick to not slow down and just be like, but I've got to, next thing. And our brains, because we're doing all the things, we're trying to remember their dentist appointments, and I don't know, our spouse's work schedule, and when the dog has to go to the vet. I don't know. We're trying to remember all the things, and making Christmas magic happen and everything. Right. And it's a beautiful, amazing thing that I wouldn't trade for anything. And it's so easy to get stuck in the next thing. So stopping, being, of course I can play Playmobil for 10 minutes. I can arrange things to do that. And I feel like sometimes, because we're home all the time, like we as in my family, we're home all the time because I don't work outside the home. We homeschool, like we're here all the time. I feel like I take the time with them for granted sometimes, and I don't stop, because I am going to be here in 10 minutes and 3 hours and 4 days. And I mean, right before we got on here, my daughter randomly said, "Can I try on all of the shoes in your closet?" And I really didn't want her to. If I'm honest, I really didn't want her to. But I knew she was asking because she wanted to do something with me without anyone else. So we tried on all of the shoes. We didn't actually get through all of them, because we took a very long time with each pair, because we had to admire them. But I mean, slow down so you can try on all of the shoes in your closet, because what else do you really have to do? What is more important than that?
Yeah. And I wonder, because, you know, like you said, it's cliche, and not only is it cliche, but it does get irritating when you're in the long days. I like how you phrase that, but it's the days are long, but the years are short. And when you're in the long days and someone says, well, enjoy it because it's not going to last, you want to punch that person in the teeth, right? Like if I wonder if there's a way, like, because we say it because we know we're on the other end of that period, and then now we miss that period.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I feel like there's never really going to be an end to that period, though, because I mean, every season just is different, right? Like they're, you know, a long toddler day. I don't know that sometimes I feel like a long toddler day feels easier than a long preteen day. So it's just, everything just is different. And I have not mastered this at all. It's a minute by minute thing for me, but it's really just trying to remember that, like, this is what I want with my life. Like, I want to be a mom. What kind of mom do I want to be? What's more important than nourishing my family? And nourishing isn't just food, right? Just like provision's not just money. What is more important than that? Do I need time for me? Yes. Do I take time for me? Yes. And nourishing them is the most important thing for me. It's what I'm choosing to build my entire life around. So we have to, it's that whole slow down, start with the end in mind. Like, where am I trying to get? Is this going to get me there? Is saying no to trying on all the shoes going to get me where I want to go? Have the relationship with my daughter I want? Probably not. So I'm going to try on the shoes.
Yeah. Love that. Is there a book that's been instrumental in your personal development journey?
There's been so many, but the first one that popped in my head was Hunt, Gather, Parent, and I cannot remember who it's by, but have you read that one?
It's on my to be read list, and it's actually right here. So it's Michaeline Dougler.
Yeah, she's a journalist by trade, and she just went to 3 different really like old traditional cultures and just was like, how do they parent? Because I feel like I'm pulling my hair out with I think it was a 3-year-old at the time, and it was just such a different perspective on parenting that I'm not saying that I've adapted a bunch of things from there, because I haven't, but the different perspective felt really important. And what is it? I'm going to mix them up. One is like Boys Adrift and Girls on the Edge. Or is it Girls Adrift and Boys on the Edge? I'm going to mix them up. One of those, but they're kind of about, and Hold On to Your Kids. Oh, I love Hold On to Your Kids. I'm just going to keep going now. Now you've opened Pandora's box. But I'd say Hold On to Your Kids probably, and Hunt, Gather, Parent, and then the other 2 there that I mentioned, I think it's Boys Adrift and Girls on the Edge. Just, again, they're just about perspectives on, because my whole thing is the home is so important, and being home focused and keeping grounded in the home and providing safety in the home. Like, that's my whole thing. And those books kind of all focus on providing that safety and, family focused life instead of peer focused and all that stuff. So sweet moment.
And my son has a green screen outfit. So his favorite thing to do is to come into my green screen and like be a floating head in it.
I love that. That's so fun.
So he's having a blast doing what he's doing in the background. So if you're just listening to the podcast, you are missing out on some very entertaining 12-year-olds boy sitting next to me, popping in and popping out. Where can our listeners find you? I would imagine that you have some wisdom with homeschooling and canning beans and somebody wanted to say hi.
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Homespun, Create the Life You Crave, and it is all about just home focused living. And it's not, you don't have to be a stay-at-home mom who homeschools and homesteads to get something out of it. It's just about figuring out how to make home the most grounded place for yourself and your loved ones. We've talked about everything from what homelessness truly means to decor to homeschooling and everything in between. So it's just about home focused and what that can mean to different people. So you can find that on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. And I am on Instagram as homespun.Kathryn. Kathryn is Kathryn, and you can find me on Facebook as Kathryn Garland. I'm not the most active on social media. I try, but it's not my jam. So I try. So my podcast it does come out weekly, and that's probably the best place to hear what I've got to say.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time and dealing with all the ins and outs and the popping ins of the kids and the and the bless yous and everything, all of it. It was a fun conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.